John Karl Fetterman is an American politician who has served as the 34th Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania since 2019. A member of the Democratic Party, he served as mayor of Braddock from 2006 to 2019. Fetterman is the Democratic nominee in the 2022 United States Senate election in Pennsylvania. Beginning his professional career in the insurance industry, Fetterman studied finance at Albright College and earned an MBA from the University of Connecticut. After the death of a close friend, he joined AmeriCorps and earned an MPP from Harvard. Fetterman's service with AmeriCorps led him to Braddock, where he moved in 2004 and was elected mayor the next year. As mayor, Fetterman sought to revitalize the former steel town through art and youth programs. Fetterman ran for Pennsylvania's Senate seat in 2016, finishing third in the Democratic primary. He ran for Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania in 2018, defeating a field of candidates that included incumbent Mike Stack in the Democratic primary and winning the election with incumbent Governor Tom Wolf. During his tenure, Fetterman received national attention for his efforts to legalize cannabis statewide and pushing back on President Donald Trump's false claims of election fraud in Pennsylvania. In 2021, Fetterman announced his candidacy in the 2022 U.S. Senate election in Pennsylvania. He won the Democratic nomination with 59% of the vote and faces Republican Mehmet Ounce in the general election. Generally described as a progressive, Fetterman advocates for healthcare as a right, criminal justice reform, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and legalizing marijuana. Early life and education. Fetterman was born in 1969 at Reading Hospital in West Reading, Pennsylvania, to Karl and Susan Fetterman. His parents were married and both 19 years old at the time of his birth. They eventually moved to York, Pennsylvania, where Fetterman grew up and his father became a partner at an insurance firm. Fetterman grew up in an affluent suburb of York, and his parents were conservative Republicans. Fetterman had a self-described privileged upbringing and has said he sleepwalked through his young adulthood, playing 4 years of football in college and intending to eventually take over as owner of his father's business. In 1991, Fetterman graduated from Albright College, also his father's alma mater, with a bachelor's degree in finance, after which he received a Master of Business Administration from the University of Connecticut in 1993. For 2 years, Fetterman worked in Pittsburgh as a risk management underwriter for Chubb. While Fetterman was studying at UConn, his best friend died in a car accident, which had a formative effect on Fetterman's life and career path. After his friend's death, Fetterman joined Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, pairing with an 8-year-old boy in New Haven, Connecticut, whose father had died from AIDS and whose mother was slowly dying from the disease. During his time as a Big Brother, Fetterman says he became preoccupied with the concept of the random lottery of birth, and promised the boy's mother he would continue to look out for her son after she was gone. In 1995, he joined the recently founded AmeriCorps, and was sent to teach Pittsburgh students pursuing their GEDs. He later attended Harvard Kennedy School at Harvard University, graduating in 1999 with a Master of Public Policy degree. Mayor of Braddock. Fetterman, who began his career working at an insurance firm, came to Braddock in 2001 to start an out-of-school youth program, helping local youth to earn their GED. He moved to Braddock in 2004. Braddock, a former industrial town, known as the site of Andrew Carnegie's first steel mill, was hit hard by the decline of the U.S. steel industry. The town had lost 90% of its population since its peak in the 1920s, and was declared a financially distressed municipality in 1988. It has no supermarkets, gas stations, or ATMs. Fetterman was attracted to Braddock by what he called its malignant beauty. Fetterman served as the part-time mayor of Braddock, and the full-time director of the city's youth program. He also founded a non-profit organization, Braddock Redux, which he used to acquire and save properties in Braddock. Fetterman's father helped subsidize Fetterman financially because the position of mayor paid only $150 per month. He received payments of $54,000 from his father in 2015. Fetterman has several tattoos related to the Braddock community. On his left arm are the numbers 15104 Braddock's zip code, and on the right, the dates of 9 murders that occurred in the town while he was mayor. Elections. Fetterman ran for mayor against the incumbent, Pauline Abdullah, in 2005. With backing from the town's young residents, he won the Democratic primary by a single vote. Fetterman won the general election. He did not face a Republican opponent. In the 2009 Democratic primary for mayor of Braddock, Fetterman faced Jamie Cox. During the 2009 campaign, Cox attacked Fetterman for failing to build a consensus with the town council. Additionally, Cox criticized Fetterman for abuse of power after Fetterman released non-public records that showed Cox was arrested in 2004. Braddock solicitor Lawrence Shields agreed that Fetterman's conduct constituted an abuse of mayoral authority and violated the Pennsylvania Criminal History Record Information Act. Fetterman defeated Cox in the primary by a vote of 294 to 103. Fetterman handily won the Democratic primaries in 2013 and 2017, and was unopposed in the general election. Tenure. First term. Second term. Shotgun incident. Media coverage and criticism. 2016 U.S. Senate campaign. On September 14, 2015, Fetterman announced that he would run for the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate seat held by Pat Toomey in the 2016 election. His campaign was considered a long shot against two better-known candidates, Katie McGinty and Joe Sestak, the 2010 Democratic nominee for Senate. Fetterman was endorsed by former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, former Pennsylvania Treasurer Barbara Hafer, and the Penn Live editorial board. Fetterman's campaign focused on progressive values and building support through grassroots movement, drawing comparisons to Bernie Sanders. Fetterman was the only statewide Democratic candidate in Pennsylvania to endorse Sanders. Though lacking statewide name recognition, having low campaign funds, and polling as low as 4% a week before the primary, Fetterman was able to garner 20% of the primary vote. Katie McGinty, who spent $4,312,688 on the primary and who was endorsed by Barack Obama and many U.S. senators, finished ahead of former Congressman and Admiral Joe Sestak, who raised $5,064,849, with Fetterman raising $798,981 and finishing third. After the primary, Fetterman campaigned on behalf of McGinty, although Toomey ultimately defeated her, winning re-election. Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania. Election. On November 14, 2017, Fetterman announced that he would run for the Democratic nomination for Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, challenging, among others, incumbent Lieutenant Governor Mike Stack. Stack was seen as a vulnerable incumbent after the Pennsylvania Inspector General launched an investigation into Stack regarding allegations that he mistreated his staff and Pennsylvania state troopers. Fetterman was endorsed by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, Pittsburgh Mayor Bill Peduto and former Pennsylvania Governor and Philadelphia Mayor Ed Rendell. On May 15, Fetterman won the Democratic primary for Lieutenant Governor with 38% of the vote. Fetterman was a part of the Democratic ticket along with incumbent Governor Tom Wolf. On November 6, 2018, Wolf and Fetterman defeated the Republican ticket of Scott Wagner and Jeff Bartas in the general election. Tenure. Board of Pardons. Donald Trump. 2022 U.S. Senate campaign. In January 2021, Fetterman announced he was launching an exploratory committee for the 2022 U.S. Senate election in Pennsylvania. On February 4, 2021, Fetterman filed a statement of candidacy with the Federal Election Commission declaring his intention to run for the Senate seat being vacated by retiring Senator Pat Toomey. On February 8, 2021, he officially entered the U.S. Senate race. Democratic primary. Fetterman's main opponent in the Democratic primary for Senate was incumbent U.S. Representative Connor Lamb. A political action committee supporting Lamb ran ads attacking Fetterman for being a self-described democratic socialist. While the ad cited an NPR article, which described Fetterman as a socialist, the Philadelphia Inquirer commented that Fetterman has never actually described himself that way. Both Lamb and another candidate, Malcolm Kenyatta, criticized Fetterman for the incident where he pulled a loaded shotgun on a black jogger whom he believed had fired a gun. Despite leading in many polls, Fetterman received few endorsements in the Democratic primary. State Representative John I. Kane said that the lack of endorsements is part of Fetterman's lone wolf personality. Darisha Parker, a state representative from Philadelphia, argued that Fetterman's lack of endorsements is due to the fact never come and introduced himself to me or any of my colleagues. So if a lieutenant governor doesn't take the time to get to talk to somebody like me, then why would we want to send somebody like him to D.C.? Fetterman won the Democratic primary with 58.7% of the vote, defeating his closest rival, Lamb, by 32.4% of the vote. Fetterman won every county, including Philadelphia County, but he struggled to win much of the city's black vote, capturing just 18% of the vote in the city's majority black precincts. Fetterman's wife Giselle gave a victory speech on her husband's behalf, as he was hospitalized after suffering a stroke. General election. In the general election, Fetterman is facing off against Republican nominee, Mehmet Ounce, a celebrity doctor. According to the Philadelphia Citizens, Fetterman has employed a social media campaign strategy consisting of shitposting and internet memes. The Daily Beast reported that Ounce's New Jersey residency, net worth, and connections to Donald Trump have been the focus of many of the memes. Criticizing Ounce's previous residency in New Jersey has become a particular hallmark of Fetterman's campaign, while at the same time promoting his own Pennsylvania roots, seeking to label Ounce as a carpetbagger. Efforts by the campaign to highlight Ounce's New Jersey ties have included enlisting New Jersey celebrities Snooki and Steven Van Zandt to record video messages aimed at Ounce, and having a plain banner fly over the Jersey Shore reading "Hey Dr. Ounce, welcome home to NJ. Heavy Black Heart John." At an August 2022 rally in Erie, Fetterman appeared in public for the first time since recovering from his pre-primary election stroke. According to Politico, he appeared physically healthy and mostly talked without any issues. At times, however, his speech was somewhat halted. In October 2022, Fetterman conducted his first in-person interview, with Dasha Burns, on NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. As a result of his stroke, Fetterman required closed captioning technology to read the questions as they were being asked out loud. Burns said that in their uncaptioned conversation before the interview, she was uncertain whether he could understand her. This drew criticism from other reporters, who said Fetterman did not exhibit such difficulty in other interviews. In September 2022, Ounce called on Fetterman to debate him before early voting began in Pennsylvania on September 19. Fetterman agreed to debate Ounce in the middle to end of October but would not commit to an exact date or to a debate in September. Ounce and Toomey criticized Fetterman's approach to the debate. The Washington Post wrote that it raised questions about whether, still recovering from a serious stroke, is fit to serve in the Senate. On September 15, Ounce and Fetterman agreed to a single debate, which was held on October 25. Politico reported that during the debate Fetterman struggled to effectively communicate missing words, pausing awkwardly and speaking haltingly, while the New York Times reported that he was also fluent enough over the course of the hour to present his Democratic vision for a state that could determine control of the Senate. According to the New York Times, Fetterman was an uneven debater even before his stroke. Republicans seized on Fetterman's appearances and his behavior after the stroke to suggest that he is not fit for office. According to medical experts, speech impairment after a stroke does not indicate cognitive impairment. Some have called these attacks ableist. Senator Chris Coons said that the debate was hard to watch, but that Pennsylvanians would still be attracted to Fetterman's candidacy because of his record of what he's done in Braddock as lieutenant governor. Following the debate, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette editorial board critiqued Fetterman and endorsed Ounce, citing Fetterman's immaturity and lack of transparency regarding his medical records as primary concerns. Political positions. Fetterman is often described as a social and fiscal progressive, including by himself. When running for Senate in 2022, Fetterman said that he is not a progressive and is just a Democrat, explaining that many parts of his platform that were once considered progressive are now mainstream beliefs of the party. In 2022, the New York Times characterized Fetterman as left-leaning. Abortion. In a Democratic primary debate in May 2022, Fetterman said regarding abortion, that is between a woman and her physician. To the question if any exceptions exist, he said, "It's certainly not between me or any politician. We settled this decades ago, and the fact that these states are trying to repeal it, we have to push back on that." Later that month, Fetterman reiterated his position opposing any legal restrictions on abortion, including in the third trimester. During his debate with Ounce, Fetterman said he supported the framework in Roe v. Wade, which allows the state to restrict abortions after the first trimester. Congressional stock ownership. Fetterman supports barring members of Congress and their immediate families from trading or holding stocks. Criminal justice reform. Prison reform is one of Fetterman's signature issues, advocating for more rehabilitation action as well as clemency for model prisoners. A part of his role as lieutenant governor, he serves as the chair of Pennsylvania's Board of Pardons, which processes clemency requests and forwards them to the governor. Fetterman urged the board to process requests more quickly. Fetterman is in favor of abolishing capital punishment in Pennsylvania, stating that he wholly supports Governor Tom Wolf's moratorium on the death penalty. He has called the death penalty inhumane, antiquated, expensive, and flawed system of punishment. Fetterman supports the elimination of mandatory sentences of life in prison without the possibility of parole for second-degree murder, in which someone commits a felony resulting in death, but is not directly responsible for the killing. He does not support eliminating life without parole as a sentence. His Senate race opponent, Mehmet Ounce, has claimed that Fetterman supports eliminate life sentences for murderers, which PolitiFact and other fact-checking outlets called a distortion of Fetterman's position. Environmental issues. Previously, Fetterman opposed fracking, calling the practice an environmental abomination. He has since shifted his stance on the issue, saying that he supports permitting fracking, although he advocates for stricter environmental regulations. Fetterman says there needs to be a balance between decarbonization efforts and creating jobs in the fossil fuel industry. While running for lieutenant governor, he supported establishing 2 new fracking wells. In 2021, Fetterman said that he supports moving towards a de facto moratorium because the transition is going to be toward green and renewable energy. In February 2021, he told MSNBC, "I'm embracing what the Green Ideal considers a priority. Like, the Green New Deal isn't a specific piece of legislation. What I am in support of is acknowledging that the climate crisis is absolutely real." Filibuster. Fetterman supports ending the filibuster in the United States Senate. He has also said that Democrats need to be more ruthless, like Republicans, in order to pass legislative priorities. Foreign policy. In 2015, the Patriot News described Fetterman as a skeptic of free trade, given his opposition to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and a non-interventionist. Fetterman has said that the United States should not be considered the world's police officers. Gun policy. Fetterman supports greater restrictions on gun purchases. Healthcare. Fetterman has described himself as a supporter of Medicare for all, saying that healthcare is a fundamental human need and right. Fetterman's website states that healthcare is a fundamental human right, and that he would support whatever path is necessary to expand healthcare accessibility, including the expansion of Obamacare. In debate, he reaffirmed he would vote for Medicare for all. Israel. Fetterman is a strong supporter of Israel-United States relations and said if he is elected as a U.S. Senator, he will lean in on the relationship between the United States and Israel. He said that the U.S.-Israel relationship is a special one that needs to be safeguarded, protected, supported, and nurtured through legislation and all available diplomatic efforts in the region. He supports United States foreign aid to Israel, including Iron Dome funding. Fetterman criticized congressional Democrats who voted against Iron Dome funding, calling them fringe and extreme. Fetterman has said he supports the right of Israel to defend itself and is passionate in his opposition to the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. He supported a law signed into law by Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf that barred Pennsylvania from entering into contracts with companies that boycott Israel. He supports a two-state solution and the expansion of the Abraham Accords, the Arab-Israeli agreements brokered under the Trump administration. Marijuana. Fetterman is a proponent of legalizing marijuana, calling the issue a political bazooka and that leaving the issue alone is giving an opportunity for another party to gain political support for a pro-marijuana legalization agenda. He argued that if conservative South Dakota voters were willing to approve a ballot measure legalizing recreational marijuana, Pennsylvania should legalize it too. He also supports expunging criminal convictions related to marijuana. Minimum wage. Fetterman supports raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Policing. Fetterman has described himself as pro-policing, including pro-community policing. He opposes defunding the police, calling the movement absurd, but supports the Black Lives Matter movement. After Derek Chauvin, a police officer who murdered an unarmed black man, George Floyd, was convicted of second-degree murder, Fetterman tweeted his support for the verdict, stating that Chauvin was clearly guilty. As lieutenant governor, Fetterman supported legislation that would allow the police to use deadly force only in situations where officers or others nearby face imminent threat of death or serious injury. Taxation. Fetterman supports implementing a wealth tax in the United States. He has stated "you know it when you see it," and has said those who have yachts could be used as a potential benchmark. Unions. Fetterman is a supporter of labor unions, saying the union way of life is sacred. Personal life. Fetterman is married to Gisele Barreto Fetterman, a Brazilian-American activist. Almeida, who was once an undocumented immigrant and a resident of Newark, New Jersey, heard about Fetterman's work as mayor of Braddock and wrote him a letter in 2007. Fetterman invited Almeida to visit Braddock and a year later they were married. The couple has 3 children and live in a converted car dealership with their rescue dogs, Levi and Artie. The family has chosen to not live in State House, the official residence for Pennsylvania's lieutenant governor. In autumn 2020, Gisele Fetterman shared a photo of the family's home while John was being interviewed. Levi's humorous facial expression resulted in the photograph going viral. The next day, an unconnected fan of Levi created a Twitter account in his name. The person subsequently made friends with Gisele Fetterman but remains anonymous. Levi and Artie have their own Twitter account with more than 25,000 followers. Mixed-breed Levi was also featured in the CW's television special Dogs of the Year 2021. In July 2021, the York Daily Record reported that Levi was an advocate for the increase of the state license fee for dog owners to fund the Pennsylvania bureau tasked with canine law enforcement, such as dealing with dangerous dogs and exposing puppy mills. Fetterman is known for his casual style of dress. He is often seen wearing a sweatshirt and shorts. He owns only one suit that he is required to wear when presiding over the Pennsylvania Senate, which has a dress code. In 2008, Allegheny County sued both Fetterman and his nonprofit Braddock Redux for unpaid taxes. A tax lien was placed against Fetterman and his nonprofit for $25,000. In 2012, Fetterman paid off the unpaid taxes. The Philadelphia Inquirer reported that Fetterman has a net worth between $717,000 and $1.58 million.